Namaskar. Welcome to Conversations with Rakesh. Last week was quite interesting. There was a video grab of a manager in a very famous bank screaming at his colleagues. That went viral. And I saw it. I'm sure many of you watching this video would have seen it. I also did a blog post on it and have been discussing about that topic in all my classrooms. Over the weekend, I had a classroom with bunch of 60 managers, and we talked only about this case. And I must tell you that out of the 60 people that were there in my class, at least half of them said that they have experienced something like this at their workplace, which is very alarming. So I thought that in this video, I'd like to talk about this particular episode of toxic behavior at the workplace. I also would like to demystify the word toxic because it's important for us to understand how should we even call this episode. And I have a suggestion for that. In the last few days, I've been reading a lot on this case. It seems that there are many such cases. Startups are having their own problem. Banks and financial institutions are having their own problem. Tech world is having its own meltdown. The old sector, manufacturing, construction is having its own recession issues. AI is beating everyone up. So the world is going through a lot of churn. And what is happening is that more and more such things are being reported, which is good. Earlier they were buried. There was a video of a security officer locking the gates of a company at the behest of the management because the managers had told him कि boss सबको बंद कर दो काम करेंगे वरना बाहर जाके सुट्टा और चाय पिएंगे, which is again very questionable issue and a questionable behavior. So let's first understand this behavior and what to call it, and I will give you a thought process which may help you. I read about it and that's why I'm also able to understand what this is. First of all, most of the news about this bank managers screaming has been called as a toxic manager, toxic workplace. I think that is not true. The word toxic workplace is a broad topic. A toxic workplace has many other issues. People don't trust each other. People are gossiping. There is all kinds of things happening. Ethical, unethical. This is one part of that toxic culture, which is where somebody is shouting at someone else. People don't feel safe in that environment and stress is very high, pressures are very low, people are competing and fighting for resources and it's ugly. That large environment, as the word itself sounds, is called a toxic workplace. To me, this is not that problem. And I think we are not realizing the root cause, that the moment we go into toxic workplace, the discussion goes somewhere else and we should talk about it in a separate context. But this video is not that issue. I also read a lot of posts where somebody used the word bully. Could be true. Bullying is also a very interesting phenomena, but it is a lot more targeted. Bullies don't talk to everyone like this. They talk to few people like this, harm them because they know they can harm them. A bully's behavior is highly calculated. Bully हर एक से लड़ाई नहीं करता है. Bully उसी से लड़ाई करता है जब वो जानता है कि ये कुछ करेगा नहीं मेरे को. And that harms that person, which is unacceptable. According to me and from what I've read, this is incivility, badtamizi, and that is not done. And you cannot scream at people, you cannot shout at people, you can't be rude at people, you can't be uncivil in your behavior. Badtamizi is just the word I probably used, it may not be the accurate word. Bad behavior, screaming at people. I mean, I'll give you a simple example. You live in a, let's say, apartment complex. You are not going to walk out the apartment complex and do all kinds of bad behavior. You won't scream at somebody walking. You won't break the pots that are there. You won't, do bad things in the garden. Like, garden mein jaake kuch kar diya. You won't do all that. And when somebody does that, we say uncivilized, incivilized, bad behavior. I think this is what happened at that bank, and this is the way to understand this issue. It is unacceptable, period. Whether you call it toxic manager, bully manager, or uncivil manager, my request number one to all of you is this is unacceptable. और ताली एक हाथ से नहीं बजती है. There are also lots of reports कि this is a systemic issue, ये तो चलता ही है, प्रेशर के अंदर लोग पागल हो जाते हैं. All that is, explanation, justification. But I must tell you that हमारे देश में there was another issue like this in education called ragging. And ragging was considered a norm of education. कि बॉस आप you go to a college और मतलब and I have experienced it myself. आप जाओ and मारा पीटी, बेइज्जती, bad, horrible behavior, which can be detrimental to the people. I don't know how I survived. Maybe I had great friends who protected me. But I know many cases that were pushed into suicide and mental trauma because of ragging. There have been serious cases. And I'm very happy and proud that one day the government of India, the Ministry of Education and the institutions came together and said, this is it. We are going to announce a zero ragging policy, zero tolerance to ragging policy. A central phone line was created directly connected to, I think, some powerful agency, maybe CBI, I don't know. But there was a helpline. And within few years, ragging dropped. And this I know for a fact because I've gone to various colleges. Many of my friends' children study in the same colleges that we all went to. We all went through ragging, but our children have not gone through it. There are some incidences here and there. It is not perfect, but it is much better than what it was 25-30 years ago. And this makes me believe कि अगर हम लोग एक बार सब कुछ agree कर लें और ठान लें, it can be resolved. Ragging is a great example of Indian education system where it has been considerably reduced. It is not perfect, but it is better. And now students, if there is a bad behavior from seniors, will call a helpline and there's instant action, lot of things, sometimes misused, but there is action. I think I would like all of you to focus there. That first of all, what happened at this bank and this screaming may or may not be toxic environment, may or may not be bullying, but it is definitely incivility. And incivility is unacceptable, bullying is unacceptable, toxic behavior is unacceptable. I think all of us should decide zero tolerance to such people. You cannot tolerate. I mean, it's not done. You can't say कि work pressure के अंदर मैंने ऐसा किया. This reminds me of this movie called Thappad. One of the finest movies made in the last 4-5 years. And I saw it. It was a very well done movie. It was about the protagonist, Taapsee Pannu, a very devoted wife who dotes her husband, and the husband is this career oriented, उसका promotion होने वाला है, दोनों लंदन जाने वाले हैं और उसका नहीं होता है at that moment, and he gets little bit upset, and in that anger and all that, he hits Taapsee Pannu. The thappad comes from there. And the movie then traces the only question Taapsee Pannu has, that how could you do it and why don't you understand that my dignity has been completely butchered? And she divorces him. And the movie talks about these things. Her mother-in-law comes कि वो बहुत गलती में उसने मार दिया बेचारे ने, बहुत stress में था. And she's shocked and she asks her mother-in-law कि mom, आपको उसका पेन समझ में आता है, मेरा पेन समझ में नहीं आता है, मुझे मारा गया. Don't you think that's appalling? How could he even do that? But you are coming and justifying कि वो उसने टेंशन में आके मारा, प्रेशर में आके मारा, as if कि मारना is justified. I think Thappad gave that message very well. So when I read somebody's comments that there's a lot of capitalistic pressure in workplaces, this is like justifying कि हाँ मारा पीटी तो चलती रहेगी. I think I don't agree with that. And this is the way we have to address such people कि आपका pressure is justified, आपका tension is justified, but that does not give you a right to shout at me. That does not give you a right to be rude to me. ये नहीं चलेगा. And that is the most important thing I want you all to look at. That don't mix it with toxicity or bullying and lot of other behaviors. Incivility is unacceptable. भले ही आप ऑफिस में हो, घर में हो, neighborhoods में हो, रोड पे हो. We all are a society where we have agreed to live like a proper good people, and we have to be nice to each other. We have to behave in a proper code of conduct. And if somebody is uncivil and does not follow the code of conduct, that has to be focused on. And to me, now comes the next phase. What do we do? My request to all of you who are in the corporate senior roles, please set up a helpline for employees. Make it as anonymous as possible. Whistleblower policy type mein kar do and create it. And make sure somebody is at the helpline when somebody calls. And don't try to probe, just document the episode. It's very important to do that. At least document karo. Number 2, please have a committee. A fair committee that represents everyone, all genders, all types, all backgrounds, all work levels. जो भी है एक committee बनाओ which is fair, and the committee should look into these cases and make some suitable action very very quickly, because if the employees feel कि यहाँ कुछ होता नहीं है, you lose the trust. And the last is, please train everyone to be civil. At School of Meaningful Experiences we take this very seriously, that communication is the way we engage with each other. अब मैं चिल्लाऊंगा उसके ऊपर, harm करूंगा, that is bad on me, and maybe I do that, and I hope I also have the courage to say sorry to people. So you train people to be civil, to be respectful, और अगर गलती हो जाए, sorry बोलना should be a very important part, and there is a course correction. So please set up these helplines, please make it anonymous, please have a whistleblower kind of a system, please have a committee, please have training programs to help people to speak to each other better. You cannot tolerate anybody shouting and being disrespectful. Incivility creates a big problem. Demotivation, stress, mental unwellness, resignations, toxic behavior is an outcome of all of that. And people don't like it. You yourself won't like it. So my dear friends, all of you, let's say no to incivility at the workplace. Let's say no to incivility in our societies, in our families. And whoever is this person who is just feeling free to be uncivil, rude, disrespectful और चिल्लाता है and justifies कि हाँ ये तो करना ही था वरना आप सीखोगे नहीं, I think that is not tolerated. You can always be a nice person, kind person, and you can be well behaved while giving the message to people. And there are many shows on TV. Shark Tank is one of them जहाँ पे बहुत incivility चलती है. Master Chef is one more. Public चिल्ला रही है एक दूसरे पे. And I'm horrified that we tolerate these things and clap at these people and say कि what a great leader. I'm sorry, I disagree with such people. They are incivil people. They have no right to be there. Now, for every bad person on Master Chef, there is a good chef somewhere else. For every bad person on Shark Tank and any other shows, there are some good people also. Our job is to increase such good people. And there are bad teachers like the one in Whiplash. But then there are good teachers like Mr. Keating in Dead Poet Society. And my wish is we create many more Keatings and many more nice people who are firm leaders but are not uncivil. So let's try and be civil. Let's try and be nice to each other. Let's try and make our corporate places nicer. And these incivil people, let's not tolerate them. On that note, stay safe.